So after looking at the current reality video that we looked at as far as your lesson in science and social studies, on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being the worst lesson you've ever taught and 10 being the best lesson you've ever taught, how would you rate your lesson?
I think overall, that particular one I would probably rate around a 6 because, if we're thinking, wanting the children to expose them to the 21st century sort of lessons and technology, this one, was paper-based. They were just following along with reading. It seemed more like a 20th century sort of lesson.
Okay. All right, good. So what pleased you about the lesson?
I liked, and it was kind of based on the students. They were able to kind of remember some of their prior knowledge about it. So I felt they were engaged. They seemed to really enjoy science. So I think that gives an opportunity when the kids are already kind of engaged with the subject matter.
Okay. What would you have done different to move the lesson to a 10?
Even as I was starting the lesson, I was thinking to myself, it would have been better if maybe I had some sort of video, because kids of this generation, if you have something like that really kind of captures their attention. So if I could have had like a preview of what we're going to be reading, I think that might have helped. To have just kind of start the lesson off with something from YouTube or some sort of something to really kind of hook in and get them captured for the lesson.
Okay. All right, so as far as engaging in videos, what would you do different if your class was a 10?
I might...
Or what would your students be doing differently if your class was a 10? Sorry.
I might have liked to have seen them, even though there was some engagement with the subject, they could have possibly have been more, and then especially with the population, it seems like they might have done better if, as far as turn taking, and they're just kind of a population that tends to call out, and so if we could have found a more orderly way for them to exchange their ideas and make connections, but also stay on topic.
All right. Very good. All right. Could you tell me more about what that would look like?
Yeah, I think so. It took. I had to kind of think on that one, but even as I was delivering the lesson, we had the little. It was on paper, and it was very small writing. I ended up just, so the kids could follow along, I ended up just holding up the paper and tracking with my own finger so they could kind of see. And the most obvious answer would be just I should have had the projector on, and I could have tracked, and the whole class could have seen the actual words. So whether or not they could follow along, for those students who have reading or language difficulties, that would have been a much more effective way to keep them engaged and provide that support with reading and vocabulary.
Okay, all right. So how could we measure that change?
Well, thinking about it, especially since I wanted to focus on technology, I realized that particular lesson there was like 0% technology used. So I think probably the obvious thing would be to look over just the time I spent using and accessing the technology that is available for me.
Time using technology?
Mm-hmm.
During the lesson itself?
Right. Yeah,
during the lesson itself?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So with the use of technology, would you want that to be your goal?
I believe that would be a good one because it is measurable. It is something that we could track and see my progress. And I think we could see the benefit of increasing my time using technology within the lesson.
Okay. All right, so right here, when we're making our goal, we have a peers goal, which means powerful, easy, emotionally compelling, reachable, and most importantly, it's student focused. So powerful, it means that it makes a big difference in children's lives. It's simple, clear, easy to understand, emotionally compelling. It means it matters a lot to you. It's reachable, which means that it identifies a measurable outcome and strategy. And it's student focuses. It addresses student achievement behavior or an attitude or outcome. So here, if you were able to reach your goal would it really matter to you?
I think so, because we all, I mean, any decent teacher is going to strive to always improve themselves, and you want to stay relevant to the time and the particular generation of students you're teaching. So yeah, I think technology has got to be increased with this group of students.
So what would your goals say?
I think I would like to increase the students' engagement by increasing my use of technology to up to around 80% of my instructional time, and so that I think that could help it. My instruction be more effective, and the students would also be more engaged. And you should be able to see results. And with the higher the engagement, you'd expect them to have higher levels of learning.
All right, so would we be measuring the students' engagement, or would we be measuring the use of technology?
I think we would have to measure the use of technology, because that's something that's more concrete and more objective based. So yeah, I think we definitely measure my use of technology. It's like time frame of the lesson.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we could definitely start there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now that you have a goal, what teaching strategies could you use to reach your goal?
Well, right offhand, I would think probably the blended classroom might be a good one to go. That way, I could, clone myself. I could, do little video lessons for each particular set of students. Meet them, with differentiation. And then there's so many different websites and programs that we might be able to use depending on whatever subject that I might be teaching to address particular needs and learning goals. So we'd probably go with the blended classroom.
Okay, I think that'd be a really good approach.
Mm-hmm.
Each student would have, so the way you're picturing it is, you would make a screencast or video of yourself explaining, instead of just standing in front of the room. Is there any other way you could use technology than other, like, even though they have the videos with the lesson on there and you're cloning yourself, is there any other piece of technology that you would use during that time that you would have, not just on their video? Would there be anything else you could do during that time, or is there anything else?
Well, something I think of, and would probably depend on availability. Was if we had an interactive, like an interactive whiteboard where the kids could come up and use it, or even just certain web-based programs where I could actually model things, or they could see it, or maybe even work it on themselves. I know when I worked in middle school, there was a big thing for science called like frogguts.com, where the kids could go in and actually dissect frogs. So that's kind of my thinking. If there was some sort of science-based things where they could actually get some hands-on, but more in a technological sense.
Yeah, so like a blended classroom with some of that hands-on with the use of technology. Okay, yeah, good. I think that'd be a good approach. All right, so we've gotten a clear picture of our reality. We have set a peers goal.
Correct.
And we have identified a strategy for how to improve the instruction using technology. And you mentioned blended classroom and some kind of interactive hands-on activity using the students' laptops. So what are your next steps?
I think it's just the things that teachers always face is always taking that time to understand what lessons are coming up, and then researching either probably on my own, but as well as going to other teachers and seeing what's out there that we could use for that subject that I may not be aware of, because these days are just so many resources that it's hard to be completely aware of it. So it would be to know what lessons are coming up, what learning goals are coming up, and to find the technology that would meet those goals and be engaging and appropriate for the students that I'm teaching.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think that'd be some good next steps. And I look forward to see how it goes.
All right,
when we'll meet in the next step.